Hello, friends. It's Chapo.
It conclusively disproved that. And the reaction is just the same. You know, they were going to do this no matter what. They were going to put someone exactly this hostile in no matter what.
All right. Well, moving on from the Democratic leadership, let's talk about the Republican leadership. Trump announced that he is running for president in 2024. Did you guys? He spoke for an hour, but I think the general consensus review of this speech is low energy. He did not seem, I watched some of it. He did not really, I didn't see that spark. I didn't see that old Trump magic anymore. And, this comes on the heels of Ivanka and Jared saying, look, we're bowing out of helping him in the 2024 run, which people are interpreting as some sort of like, oh, this is another ding in Trump's armor. But I'm telling you, getting rid of the two biggest losers in your family who are like just dead weight, dragging your campaign down. I think this is a very smart move on behalf of Trump they'll say that Ivanka, she's like, oh, I'm making the decision not to participate in this reelection campaign. No, this campaign in 2024. But I mean, those two losers, get them the fuck out of here.
Yeah, I mean, the base is ambivalent to them or hates them. I do kind of think it's a conscious decision by Jared and Ivanka to on their unending quest to become normal.
Yeah,
this is part of it. This is certainly a decision by them. The most important sign that I saw, if you are DeSantis positive, if you are, you're pining for him, Ben Garrison has stopped wearing Trump as buff and drew Trump as an albatross around the neck of the Republican Party. That is the first sign, because when Candace Owens or the fucking Jesse Kelly or any of those fucking losers are like, I think DeSantis is more professional. I don't care. That doesn't mean anything. Ben Garrison is actually way more of a reliable thermometer of the average voter. That's actually something. That actually makes me think that this might actually be a race. I mean, if nothing else, it shows how badly Trump bricked with that incredibly low energy greatest hits Fat Elvis period speech.
And he said the thing that Republican politicians were always supposed to sort of hide the football on. And he's going right at immigrants from Central and South America, build the wall. His big exciting pitch this time is executing drug dealers. And I got to say, this is a retread. This seems very 90s, late 80s kind of, culture, red meat political campaign stuff. Hey, we're going to hang fentanyl dealers or whatever. What did you guys make of that?
I think it's his Duterte era, and it makes sense. If, as I think is evident, the only real meat to politics left, the only thing to invest in, voting one way or the other, is to see your enemies publicly destroyed by the state on your behalf, then the promise of just same day executions for drug dealers, hopefully televised, maybe that'll probably be he's saving that for the primaries. That certainly it's an incentive. Hey, vote for Trump and you'll get to just sit there in your house and imagine all the drug dealers getting lined up and shot.
Yeah, I mean, we saw him do versions of this as early as 2015. It does seem like he's gearing towards making fentanyl the sort of centerpiece of everything, the way that immigration was in 2016 and 2017. I think it's just not enough. Because the big thing that helped him with immigration was that he could use it as a cudgel against any establishment Republican or any not so establishment Republican. You could kind of do anything to make the case that even Ted Cruz was sort of dovish on immigration, because at some point the white whale of every Senate Republican was to achieve an immigration compromise, even if they were an extreme immigration hawk. I don't know. Maybe he'll find a way to say that Ron DeSantis is soft on fentanyl. I don't know. Certainly, he's shown a capability to pull things out of his ass and connect people to things that they're not necessarily connected to. But I think he needs something more visceral than that. I will not count him out, though, because I don't know. I have too many memories of the 2016 primary where he was supposedly bricking and supposedly falling behind Ben Carson, and all these things were supposed to happen. With a primary, it's the opposite of how he faces real work. with the primary, he gets stronger the longer it goes on. So I think we're going to see his worst work in these first few months. And then as it goes down the stretch, he's probably going to find his fastball again. And he's certainly going up against someone who doesn't have that great of a capability to attack him for multiple
LeBron
in 2016. Between DeSantis and Trump, you're going to see the emergence within the Republican Party of the educational divergence that you're now seeing over the last 5 years between the Republicans and Democrats. And Trump is going to be the non-college candidate, and DeSantis is going to be the candidate of the college-educated Republicans. And if that's the case, if that divide shapes up, and it is like there's one guy for the people who want to like take it seriously, and there's one guy for the people who just kind of want a theatrics of politics, then I don't know. Maybe DeSantis has a chance there.
I will say this about college educated, the more collegey candidate in presidential primaries. They seem to suffer from something that's close to a political Madden curse, where the earlier you crown them, the worse for
That's true.
That ultimately is for them. I could see it being, a year from now, and it's hilarious that we ever thought DeSantis was, a tier one.
Especially
candidate.
if people feel
That
like
is
they're
certainly possible.
having him stuffed down their throat, which it already feels like is happening.
Well, I mean, we're seeing a retread of the 2016 primary where like all the Murdoch press and the National Review are replaying the same, like they're coming out, no to Trump. So a Florida man makes announcement was like the below the fold headline of the New York Post, and like above displayed beneath their headline story, which is like some child's clothing soaked in blood because there's some latest grisly shooting or crime that happened. But yeah, like National Review too, they just came out with their no to Trump in 2024 editorial. And the thing is, like, we saw how well that worked the last time. Is that like, you want to talk about bending the knee, man? Those guys, right. they all tried to corral their feral supporters who just simply weren't having it. The difference is this time is that he will face a unified conservative media that is against him. But also keep in mind, he has built up his own kind of like parallel conservative media that's for him. But keep in mind, though, that like in 2016, like there was no evidence of him actually being president. And forget that, there was no evidence of him losing a presidential race. So I think in this time, it may be a little bit like he's going to face a stronger headwind with the Murdoch press and the right-wing media and the right-wing establishment being opposed to him because they can point to an actual track record of failure, not just like, oh, like this guy's too indecent to be president.
Okay, my counterpoint to that, though, would be that no matter how shitty Trump campaigns, no matter how poorly run things actually are, and how low energy he actually is, his people show up. Mm-hmm. They show up no matter what. I think his 2020 campaign was one of the worst run presidential reelection campaigns ever. Ever. We can safely say that. And he came pretty damn close, at least in the Electoral College. Yeah. His people, he has a baseline of people that are going to show up for him, and we don't know if they're going to show up for anyone else. If we have the same mood of Republicans who are like doing the same calculus that Democratic voters did in the 2020 primary, where all they thought about was who can beat Trump, who are other people going to vote for? I know that I would vote for him, but I'd also vote for Sanders or whoever. But would other people vote for this guy? That was the calculus that helped put Biden over the edge and bring him back to life. Are Republican voters the type of voters that would make that calculus? I don't know. If they are, that's great for DeSantis because he's certainly, that's the biggest argument for him so far. But it's also not true. He polls significantly worse against Biden than Trump does. And it's not just name recognition. He lacks a lot of the positives that Trump has. Trump is both the worst and best thing for that party.
I thought I would read from the editors of the National Review, and they're just this week they came out with an editorial just simply titled "No" about Trump in 2024. So they're I mean, like, yeah, like they did. It was the cover of the National Review. It was just like back in 2016 was like when they put out all the all stars like Glenn Beck and William Crystal to be like, no. Simply, we are standing athwart this election saying no to Donald Trump. And they're doing it again in November 15th of 2022. this, of course, like any good National Review or really any article written or any opinion piece written by any conservative, it has to begin with a quote. And they begin to paraphrase Voltaire after he attended an orgy. Once was an experiment, twice would be perverse. This is
this is really hitting with every guy who tried to file an injunction to get his family to invite him to Thanksgiving. The GOP presidential primary biz.
It says here, a bruised Donald Trump announced a new presidential bid on Tuesday night, an invitation to double down on the outrages and failures of the last several years that Republicans should reject without a hesitation or doubt. To his credit, Trump killed off the Clinton dynasty in 2016, nominated and got confirmed 3 constitutional justices, reformed taxes, pushed deregulation, got control of the border, significantly degraded ISIS in Syria and Iraq, and cinched normalization deals between Israel and the Gulf states, among other things. Well, I mean, if that's they're like, oh, well, we got to give the guy his credit. He continued to slash taxes for the wealthy by trillions of dollars, get a fucking death grip on the Supreme Court for a generation, and defeat ISIS in Syria. How would they not support this guy to run for fucking re-election? Jesus Christ, this is like the laundry list of Republican successes that they could, if any other candidate could muster that level of accomplishment, they'd be riding his dick like fucking Secretariat.
Yeah, he defeated ISIS in Syria because due to a weird clause in New York electoral law, he won the presidency and also the chairmanship of Hezbollah and the IRGC.
They're going to say, that said, the Trump administration was chaotic even on its best days because of his erratic nature and lack of seriousness. He often acted as if he were a commentator on his own presidency and issued orders on Twitter and in other off-the-cuff statements that were ignored. He repeatedly had to be talked out of disastrous ideas by his advisors and Republican elected officials. He turned on cabinet officials and aides on a dime. Trump had a limited understanding of our constitutional system, and at the end of the day, little respect for it. His inability to approximate the conduct that public expects of a president undermined him from beginning to end. I mean, just like, once again, saying that he has no respect for or understanding of our constitutional system really seems like a strength rather than a liability when it comes to any politician, but certainly a Republican one. And the only thing that counts is that he got those Supreme Court justices on the court. So, I mean, like that there's his love of the Constitution right there. He appointed 4 constitutional justices. So, again, I don't know what they're bitching about here. It's just like, oh, he was erratic and off the cuff. I mean, like, as I said before, like
he's embarrassing to them. They couldn't. But not amongst the people they hang out with. It's something that they have to justify, and they have to squirm under the gaze of their liberal friends who are all exactly the same as them.
Going on,
and also,
here,
at this point, though, I mean, what they should really be arguing is that the fact that he won't shut the fuck up about the last election is the biggest problem with him as a candidate.
Yeah. No. That. Okay. So. There was some kind of electoral effect against like the election denier candidates, right? We saw it most prominently with Doug Mangiano's whatever. Yeah. And I think, okay, people have liked to argue that it's because voters care a lot about democracy. Maybe. I think a bigger aspect is that when you keep talking about it, you come off like a fucking loser.
You're whining.
Yep.
You're reminding people of what a loser you are.
It's arguing with the refs. Saying, oh, we were robbed because, that was a roughing the passer penalty that wasn't called or whatever. It's like, you still lost. You still fucking lost. And, as the Roger Stone, Alex Jones thing, it may demobilize the people who take it very literally instead of metaphorically. And was it Felix? Did you see that? Yeah. Did you see the rapper Plies on Twitter? He's always got some great push, but he was like, how are you going to say the election is rigged and then go back and run for another fucking presidential campaign? He's like that's like getting it. He's like that's like fucking a woman, getting an STD from her, and then going back for some more pussy.
Well, maybe they should hold early voting on Good Pussy Wednesday. Plies' his favorite day of the week. To rewind a little bit in the article, they talk a lot about like the drama of the Trump presidency, right? And we've made a big deal about how one of the hidden factors, or maybe not so hidden now, factors of the Biden success the greatest Democratic midterm since fucking JFK, winning the presidency, everything, is that he advertises openly there's no more drama. You're not going to have to read the fucking news all the time. Conversely, though, is there something in the Trump base where they enjoy the drama?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, do you remember what Roseanne said about QAnon? She said it's like being part of an action movie with all your friends. Yeah. I really do think that is a big part of the Trump phenomenon, is that it's an exciting adventure for people who maybe are in the autumn of their years.
Bored,
he's inviting you inside, sort of behind the green door, and invites you to at his rallies or whatever. I mean, he doesn't want to have anything to do with these people, obviously, but it's not very much like the pitch of hey, the adults are in charge. They're like, no, we're having a sleepover. We're playing video games and drinking soda all night long. Come on, it's fun. It's awesome.
Yeah, we're gonna find fucking buried pirate treasure. We're gonna find a dead body at the train tracks. We're gonna
find JFK.
Glenn Simpson. Look, these people learned more about the administrative state by accident than anyone in the history of modern American elections. And DeSantis will never match that. He's never going to provide the same excitement. Ever.
LaRon only has Mickey Mouse wins against Andrew Gillum, who's reportedly a crackhead, who later turned out to be a crackhead. Did you see Trump's post about that? He was like, and he's right. He gave him that victory. LaRon, he gave him that victory by supporting him against Andrew
by the
Gillum,
way,
in parentheses, who later turned out to be a crackhead.
What's wild is in that statement, he also implies, and it's amazing how everyone just ignored this, because it's like at a certain point you can't be piling on things to concern yourself with. He implies that there was an attempt to steal the election from Ron DeSantis that he stopped. Yep. He sent his election integrity SWAT team to Florida to prevent it from happening. But he was unable to prevent them from stealing the election from him. So he saved DeSantis' career while ending his own. That's loser shit. I'm sorry.
Just reading more here from the National Review. It says here, a lesson of the midterms was that association with Trump and Stop the Steal were liabilities. And no one is more associated with both of those things than Donald Trump himself. Democrats helped choose MAGA candidates that were eminently defeatable in GOP primaries this year, and nominating Trump, who Democrats are pining to run against again in 2024, would replicate this experience on a much larger scale. Needless to say, Trump is a magnetic political figure who has managed to bond countless millions of Republicans to him. Many GOP voters appreciate his combativeness and hate his enemies, who so often engaged in excesses in pursuit of him. Once he won the nomination in 2016, they understandably voted for him in 2016 and 2020, given the alternatives. But the primaries won't present a choice between Trump and progressives with calamitous priorities for the nation, but other Republicans who aren't, in contrast to him, monumentally selfish or morally and electorally compromised. And it should be added, won't be 78 years old if elected and ineligible to serve 2 terms. It's too early to know what the rest of the field will look like, except it will offer much better alternatives than Trump. The answer to Trump's invitation to remain personally and politically beholden to him and his cracked obsessions for at least another 2 years, with all the chaos that entails and the very real possibility of another highly consequential defeat, should be a firm, unmistakable no. So, yeah, I mean, they're going to run this program again. We'll see if it works. But I would just say, they're running the program now with a record of Trump actually losing that they can sort of bounce it off of. I do wonder, in terms of the other alternatives being promoted other than LaRon DeSantis, did you guys see the Mike Pence interview on 60 Minutes where he was just he was like, yeah, Trump tried to kill me. And he was like, Trump tried to kill me and my family. And then they asked him, should he run for president in 2024? And he's like, I think that's up for the voters to decide. So, look, if Trump wants to run for office on let's execute Mike Pence for treason, let's just let Americans decide. I think that's how I feel about that.
God,
I'll tell you who will never win, even if all the other candidates die. Mike Pompeo.
Yeah.
Who the fuck told him that's a good idea?
I love that he lost a bunch of weight too. He did the fucking Mike Huckabee. It's like, how'd that work for him, man?
No, we're in the era of big boys.
Mike Pompeo is like the evil president in a Call of Duty game. No one is voting for him. That's not happening.
You think he's gonna if he loses any more weight, he's gonna have that thing where like the loose skin hangs off you like fucking curtains. That's gonna be disgusting to look at.
Yeah, there's no one there's no one else. You know, there's no one who I think fulfills like a role equivalent to de Blasio in the first mayoral primary he ran in, where he just he's always there in the background, and then there's just so much drama and collapse that he's just there. Just by the virtue of fidelity, he surges to the top of the heap eventually. There's no one like that in the Republican primary. Because I do think that could happen. Just, I could see Trump not making it all the way, but him damaging DeSantis enough that no one really wants to vote for him. I could see maybe hypothetically the prince that was promised, the generic Republican, rising to the top of the heap. The thing is, that guy doesn't exist. As Matt pointed out in our first post midterm episode, there are no generic Republicans left to do that job.
Yeah, just freaks.
What about Glenn Blumpkin? Who Trump said, you see that where Trump said of Glenn Youngkin, he was like, his name sounds Chinese. Yes. And I'm just like, what? If his name was Young Kim or something, you could be like, maybe it sounds Korean, but Glenn Blumpkin, he's China. He's from China. That's by the way, that was the thing that Scott Adams, another erstwhile Trump supporter, was like, okay, I'm out. I'm out after he defamed Glenn Blumpkin by saying his name sounds Chinese.
But Glenn Blumpkin, I think that may grow to be like a consensus choice, but again, another fucking that you think you're gonna win with it. You think that's better than DeSantis even. That is like you found a worse Mitt Romney. You found a guy who did 9/11.
Oh man, yeah. So what about on the going over to the Democratic side? I mean, obviously Biden is, he's coming out of these midterms looking pretty strong. But, like when people are asking, like overwhelmingly in exit polls, Democratic voters said that they don't want him to run again in 2024. And he's like, just watch me, Mac. So he's feeling himself right now. But like, is there any chance, we know,
guess what? They'll vote for him again. Yeah. It doesn't matter what they want. Cory Booker in 2020 said you won't have to vote for Biden for president. Guess what happened? All these voters, you know how Democrats held on to the Senate and kept House losses to the high single digits? It was the strength of young people who hate Biden.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. They'll fucking vote for him. And they better, because I don't really think there's anyone who could do it better.
Okay, what about 2024? If he doesn't die, he will get it, because there's no capacity in the Democratic Party to unwedge his ass from the White House if they want. What
about
Gorgeous Gretchen? Gorgeous Gretchen?
She doesn't want it.
Nobody's going to go against Biden. Nobody's going to provoke that kind of hostility. They become a wrecker to the base of people, the bedwetters who are always just wrapped in front of MSNBC and terrified of someone undermining the Democratic Party and allowing the Republicans to win again.
Yeah, do I think that a fucking 5'11" MILF, who won Michigan by DeSantis numbers, would be a very successful presidential candidate? Of course I do. I think she would do massive numbers against Glenn 9/11 Blumpkin or Elron DeFadas. But she doesn't want it because Democrats
got to wait her turn.
Got
to wait her turn.